I start this study the same way as the first one, zooming out to look at the overall atmosphere before getting into the details. The first wash goes down the same way, but I'm using a little more paint this time to deepen the fog. The highlights are preserved with masking fluid that I applied and let dry before the first wash. I paint the buildings and their reflections with muted, desaturated colors. At this stage, they're just a backdrop for the focal point that comes later. The masking fluid preserves the lights. My original plan was for the lights and their reflections to carry the piece, since that's what drew me to the scene. But after the first study, I realized the contrast between the lights and the muted buildings wasn't very strong. I didn't want the focal point to be a specific building, but I knew where I wanted to place it. Not too far into the distance, but far enough to sit between the distant blur and the foreground water. A few strokes of saturated brown paint reveal a small, nondescript building in front of the tallest building in view. From this area, I slowly increase the contrast in the nearby trees, the landscape, and the reflections. I'm careful not to take it too far out, or the focal point will lose its impact. I paint the left side in a similar way to balance the weight of the new focal point. I might have taken it a little too far. As the last layers dry, I add a few small details to get a sense of how the final painting might look. I realize the focal point doesn't have the punch I'd like, so I make a mental note to carry into one more study before starting the final piece. I'm Lonnie Ash, and you can learn more about my work at lonnieash.com.